The Alternative 93.9 KWSS and KWSS.org if you're listening online. I'm Jim Louvau. It's Sunday. That means one thing. You are tuned into The Louvau Show. I've got a very, very special show lined up for you tonight. I have Mr. Rob Zombie and John 5 on the show. I had a chance to meet up with Rob Zombie and John 5 last week. This year, Rob Zombie decided to do his Great American Nightmare haunted houses, which are all based upon his films. And I shot a really cool video with John 5 and Rob Zombie, which will be linked up on the Facebook page over at facebook.com/Louvau Show, where you can also check out any of the past episodes as usual. I was out there creating the video for the Phoenix New Times, which you can head over to phoenixnewtimes.com and check out some of the exclusive photos I got. And I actually got a private tour of the haunted house the night before it opened. And then during opening night, I went through the haunted house with John 5, which is really cool. So like I said, head over to our Facebook page for The Louvau Show or head over to phoenixnewtimes.com and check out some of this cool stuff.
Hey, this is Ken Andrews from Failure, and you're listening to The Louvau Show on 93.9 FM KWSS and KWSS.org.
Tonight, my first guest on The Louvau Show is someone who is basically the definition of what an artist is. He's a man of many hats. We were introduced to him through his music with White Zombie before going solo, and now he has a whole legion of fans that are really into the films he makes. Rob Zombie, welcome to The Louvau Show. How are you?
I'm good. I'm dying in here, man. It's hot.
It is warm, but we're in Phoenix, so that's pretty typical.
Yeah, it's pretty much par for the course.
So tell me why you decided to do the Great American Nightmare in Phoenix this year.
Yeah, well, last year we did in California, which was really successful, but it was Phoenix, I think, really came about through Steve Koppelman, who's the partner in this. He lives here, and he just thought it'd be the perfect place, and I was like, okay, let's do it. I've always had good luck coming to Phoenix. It's always been a great market for touring, so I figured, the fans were here, and it would be a great turnout, and so far, just the ticket sales have already passed last year, so it's already kicking ass.
I've always considered Phoenix to be definitely a zombie market as well, so...
Yeah, it's always been great.
Last year when you did it in LA for the first time, you had the opportunity to have a lot of different acts playing because there's a lot of bands that live in LA.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really much of an option as much this year. Was that something, did you think about that decision when you put it together?
Well, yeah, I thought last year having all the bands was kind of a bad idea because it seemed to confuse people, truthfully. Like when we had the bands and the haunted houses, every time I do an interview, everyone thought like, well, is this a tour? We sort of went so overboard with trying to give people entertainment that it actually seemed like it was actually confusing everybody after a certain point. So this year, we're playing opening night, and I'm playing one time in Chicago with the other Great American Nightmares, but we just left it without the music this year because it seemed like like I said, it just confused everybody.
A little overkill?
Yeah, a little bit of overkill, and most people didn't care. They just wanted to go to the haunted houses. On certain nights, depending upon the act, it was more or less people. I mean, maybe next year we'll add it back in and have some other people play here or there, but we just thought it was easier to not do it every night this year.
So at this point in your career, would you say that you're more excited about making music or making movies or documentaries?
I mean, I'm excited about everything still. I mean, I wouldn't do it if I wasn't, because I wouldn't be able to find the time. I mean, we're wrapping up a new record right now. We're in the process of just putting the final touches and mixing it and stuff, and we're more excited about this record than any record ever. So that's still, the enthusiasm level for that's as high as ever. I'm prepping the next movie, which I'll start shooting early next year, and that's always exciting, and this is exciting. I mean, I don't know, I never lose enthusiasm for anything. I don't. In fact, I feel like as the time goes on, I get more enthusiastic about things.
So are you actually on a full tour right now, and you're just doing these one-offs in the opening nights?
Yeah, we've been on a full tour. It's just for the month of September, one last run before we shut it down for the year. And it just happened that it worked out perfect that we can hit opening night here, and then we'll hit Chicago.
Now, one of the things that I read recently is you were talking about the new record and it being the best record that you've ever done.
Yeah.
Now, is that something that every musician tends to say before they put out a new record?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it feels like... It's funny when people ask you about it because it sounds like such a hollow statement, because who's going to say, oh, by far, it's the worst record we've ever done. But we really feel that way because sometimes it really started with the last album. Every record you try to make great, obviously you try to do your best, but with the last record we really felt re-inspired, and it was basically because we had the right 4 people in the band, because sometimes you don't. Sometimes even one oddball in the band can really fuck things up. And we knew that when we came time to do the next record that we'd be in a good place. We came right off tour, started recording, went back on. We've been bouncing on and off tour. And it's really brought a real live feel to the record. You know, sometimes you lock yourself away and you stay in a studio for too long and the record gets real stale sounding. But by being on tour the whole time, it's really kept it very alive. And that's why I think we love it so much.
You know, I've been watching you play since like White Zombie was on tour with like Quicksand back in the day. So I've seen a lot of people come and go over the years. Why do you think that there've been so many lineup changes and people in and out of the band over the years?
It's always different reasons. You know, every reason is always been different. You really have to find people that have the maturity level to realize that it's not always better somewhere else. You know, like say like John Five, he's been in a million bands, everything from Marilyn Manson to David Lee Roth, and he's like, I'm in this band, I'm staying here. He's been in the band now for 10 years. He goes, I know it's not better anywhere else. I'm staying in this band. And the same with the other guys, where sometimes you get people and they just, I don't know, they're just immature. They don't understand. They think, oh, okay, I'm here. I'm gonna go start my own band now. But they never do.
Right.
You know, and then they always call me later and go like, hey man, can I come back? I'm like, no, we replaced you. You quit. What do you want from me? So it's always like, it's just, musicians are weird. Musicians have this real talent for doing the absolute dumbest things to their career that they could possibly do. You know, you give them two choices, and they're always going to pick the wrong one. Always. It's just human nature, I guess. I don't know.
Now, would you say that you're difficult to work with?
No, I'm easy to work with. That's the problem. I know people that are in bands, and they're treated like fucking shit, and they'll stay in that band for 16 years like a beat housewife. Like they get that. No, they do. They get that same sort of syndrome. It's like Stockholm syndrome or something. And then sometimes I mean, I'm not trying to be funny about that. It's like, it really is like, it's like the abuse they take, they become almost accustomed to. It's really finding people, like I said, that are mature and know their role in the band. And people sometimes just don't. If you write good songs, great. But if your songs are shit, we're not going to use them. And you should know that. Right. You know, you should just not be so full of yourself to force that and go, fuck it, I'm going to quit. You know, I've tried to keep everybody in the band all along. I don't ever want anyone to quit. I've stood there with band members and we're about to go on. I go, look, there's 30,000 people out there. What the hell? You're making more money than you've ever made in your entire life. The band's huge. What is so bad? Then they start their side project. They play bars in front of 3 people for about a couple weeks, and then you get the phone call that I always get, hey man, can I come back? No, I replaced you with someone who's 10 times better than you. Right. But of course, the funny thing is, it's like whoever is the most stable member is always somehow perceived as the bad guy. Be it Kerry King or Lars Ulrich or whoever, when they're not. They're the guy who, Slayer would have disappeared 20 years ago if it wasn't for Kerry King. This guy lives and breathes Slayer, like Lars lives and breathes Metallica. It's like, but sometimes it gets that warped perspective, like they're the bad guy. They're not the bad guy. They're the guy that's holding it all together. It's weird. Success always backfires.
What are some of your favorite parts of the haunted house?
I mean, so far, since I've only seen it probably how you guys have seen it today, I just love the exteriors this year. That the exterior of the Firefly house, they built the whole exterior, and they're going to actually have like a shootout with the police while you're waiting in line. Things like that are really pretty exciting.
How much input do you have on the entire project?
I mean, I have as much input as I want. I mean, obviously, since it's based on my films, they already have a blueprint that they can go by for the art direction. So last year, I actually was more involved because it was the first year. But this year, now that we've got a relationship and they know what I want to do and they know the way I like things, you know, they just took it and ran with it. So it's great because it's obviously I can't be here every single day for 6 weeks nitpicking every little thing. So I mean, that's always the way you do things. You have to find good people and let them do their job. That's the only way things get done.
All right, so let's do your favorite movie you've ever done to this point.
I mean, I like all the movies for different reasons. I mean, I think the best experience I ever had doing a movie was Devil's Rejects. That was, you know, every once in a while you have that experience that you're always looking to recapture. You don't know if you ever will. You know, we had enough time, we had enough money. The camaraderie with the cast and crew, everything about it was just great, you know. It's one of those things, and I've never had that sense. Every movie's had different problems. I mean, every movie's different, but, you know, the Halloween movies were filled with lots of drama and problems, and, you know, Lords of Salem, you know, the time and the money on that one was tough, so it's always, you know.
Favorite record you did in White Zombie? I
mean, I figure Astro Creep was probably our best record, you know. That's why I thought it was a good time to stop. Because I knew, just because the band was falling apart, that it was just only going to get worse. We weren't going to get better.
Favorite solo record?
I actually think the new one is my favorite record. I mean, before that, Hellbilly Deluxe, the first one was my favorite just because I spent the most time on it, and, the fact that it was the first time I ever worked without being in a band. But,
So speaking of touring and all those fun stories that come along, would you ever tour with Marilyn Manson again?
Yeah, of course. We were touring. I mean, I don't really have... And the funny thing is, after all the years, I don't really have a problem with anybody. I'm good friends with a lot of people that have such bad reputations, but, be it Glenn Danzig or Dave Mustaine, all these guys are great. I don't have a problem with anybody.
I see photos of you and those guys, and...
They're great. They're super nice guys. I've known Glenn now for over 20 years, and Glenn's been nothing but the nicest guy in the world the whole time I've known him. Super cool, funny. A lot of people know he's really funny, because most of the stuff he does is, dark and spooky, but he's really funny. Great guy. But, again, it's like some of these people are all driven sort of type people, and I don't know. They get bad reputations that they don't deserve.
What's the next movie project or documentary you're working on?
Well, prepping this movie called 31 right now, which I'll start shooting early next year, and it's a horror movie. It's a pretty fucked up movie. It's more in the vein of Devil's Rejects in the sense of how gritty and nasty it is. And it's really a movie it takes place on Halloween, that's why it's called 31. And it's about 5 random people that are kidnapped and taken to a remote location, and they have to fight for their lives for 12 hours until Halloween ends. And they're trapped in this giant warehouse, and they keep releasing these maniacs that just chase them around and hunt them down and kill them like these serial killers. And it's just nonstop brutality.
I wanted to ask you, do you still watch a lot of horror movies?
Yeah. I still watch a lot of everything. I mean, right now, especially because it's Halloween, I started watching. I like to watch things in order. I was watching. I started with Dracula, then went to Dracula's Daughter, Son of Dracula. Just start going through all the films in order. I'm always watching something, good, bad, old, new.
Do you think that you're getting close to what someone would refer to as a legend?
I don't know what that means. I think it's if you stick around long enough, no matter what you do, you can become a legend. Legendary garbage man. If you pick up the garbage for 50 years.
Rob Zombie, thank you so much for joining me on the Laveau Show. I can't wait to hear the new record. Now, my second guest on the show this evening also needs very little of an introduction. He's played in bands like Marilyn Manson, David Lee Roth, Rob Halfords 2, and currently he is the guitar player in Rob Zombie. Mr. John 5, welcome to the Laveau Show. So we just had a chance to tour the Great American Nightmare together. What did you think?
Well, first of all, I mean, I love going to these haunted mazes, and I love going to the haunted houses. I do them religiously at Halloween time. By far, these are the scariest, most uncomfortable mazes that I've ever been to in my life. I mean, these are totally insane, where I felt physically uncomfortable.
Yeah, yesterday when I interviewed Rob, I said, I think haunted houses usually aren't very good, and that's why I haven't gone to a lot of them over the years. But if anyone could do it, it would be him. And I think after seeing it yesterday without all of the actors and actresses, it was scary enough then, and today it really all came together.
It is incredible. If anybody likes haunted mazes or haunted houses, just get over here immediately.
So you guys are about to put a new record out, which Rob said was probably the best record he's ever done. Would you agree with that?
Well, I was a big Rob Zombie fan before I got in the band, and I know all the material. Just being a fan, by far, this is the best record. I mean, it's so hooky. The songs are just great, and he has this certain kind of growl to his voice or tone to his voice, and he's singing like that on a few songs on this new record, which I just love. Good example is like when he sings like Creature of the Wheel or something, and he's singing like that in this record, and it just like, this is me just talking as a fan. I mean, it's just, I would say, his best record by far. It's weird, they're our best record. I'm still talking as a fan.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think that I ran into you when they did, what was like the 20th or 25th year anniversary of the Hard Rock Cafe in Vegas. Yeah. And it was when you had showed up to play just like Thunder Kiss 65, and I ran into you in the hallway, and I spoke to you, and I've ran into you plenty of times over the years, and you've always been very friendly, but it was kind of funny that I was there because that was pretty much the night that started this whole journey for you.
Yeah, and that was something that's almost 10 years ago, and it's pretty insane that, it's been this long, and it just, don't blink because time goes by that fast, and it's just been the best 10 years of my life. for real. It's been incredible. I wouldn't change it for the world.
It's crazy because I feel like I've really grown up with Zombie and John 5. I remember being a fan and getting introduced to you back when you were playing with Rob Halford, who's from here, and then obviously Marilyn Manson, and moving on. And right after the Manson thing, you started doing like your solo project, and then found a home with Zombie.
Yeah, funny story about Halford, and I was thinking about Halford when we're here and we're driving around, and I remember Rob Halford invited me to his house, because we were starting 2. This is like the first time I met him and stuff, and so I flew here, and you get hungry on the plane, right? So I had a candy bar in my pocket. I was like, oh, this is great, and it's 10,000 degrees here, and I go to Halford's house, and I remember he had this big, huge white couch, and I sat down on the couch, and I'm like talking to him, and he goes, oh, would you like something to drink? And I remember this. I said, oh, I'll have some lemonade, because he had some. And he walked out, and I'm looking around. I got up to look around his house, and there was a big chocolate stain from my candy bar, because it was melted from the plane. And I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So I turned his cushion upside down and just, so.
So did he figure it out, or did you pull a fast one?
I think I pulled a fast one, really fast. It was like one of those movies, where you're just trying to figure it out real quick.
That's a good story. Yeah. It's good stuff. Tell me a little bit about your experience touring with Manson, being in Zombie.
Well, it's 2 different, people completely. With Manson, you never knew, what time you were going to go on, if you're going to go on late, or if we were going to do the whole set, or what was going to happen. With Rob, we were on stage exactly at that time. We're off at a certain time, and we know what we're going to do, and it's very organized. And with Manson, it was like crazy New Year's Eve every night, just like end of the world every night, And I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, it was an incredible experience. And, with Rob, it's just, this is a place that I want to hang my hat, and this is what I want to do until he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories with Manson, and I feel like no matter who I'm talking to, his name comes up. So I couldn't get away from that guy if I wanted to. And I actually had Daisy Berkowitz on my radio show a few weeks ago, and hearing, because he started the band he calls him Brian. And so hearing the stories from back in the day to being friendly with some of the older members that have come and gone over the years, it's really crazy to see how things changed.
Yeah, I mean, me being a fan of Manson as well, I loved him before I got in the band, but I really think that the time I was there with Ginger and Pogo and Twiggy, myself, Manson, I think those were, great years with great music that was made and all that stuff. Really proud of it.
Did you enjoy being in a band with Tim Skold?
I thought we wrote some cool songs, that mob scene and all that stuff, and the new shit, all that stuff. I mean, there was great stuff, It's funny how it's so many different eras, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, but, I love where I am now and wouldn't change it for the world.
You guys are in the middle of this tour, which it's funny because I don't think a lot of people know that you guys are on tour right now because they think you're just showing up to do these opening nights on the Great American Nightmare. Rob said that the tour cycle for this is the last run before there's a new record.
So we're doing these shows. It's kind of like the last hurrah, for a little while. And it's great, you're going out. It's like being on vacation with your best friends. I mean, it's the best. It's weird because we all get along so well. It really is incredible. Like, if one of us is sick and the guy's not around, it's like, hey, you feel like you've missed out on something. So we have one dressing room, but we have multiple rooms, but we're all in one dressing room. We're all on one bus. We're always together. It's great.
So it really is a band setting, whereas a lot of other bands aren't quite as band oriented as maybe they appear.
No, it is. I mean, when I say we're always together, I mean, we eat catering together. We're always in the same room together. Right now, the 3 other guys are in there and, hanging out.
So you're completely sober, right?
Never did a drug or a drink or anything.
Do you think that's part of the longevity of your career?
I don't know. I think it's important. I think it's very imperative to be on your game, and you got to be healthy, and you got to be clear-minded and ready to go. That's just how I think. I don't know. Could be, it could not be.
It's funny how I've always thought that you're such a nice, friendly character off the stage, but once you get on the stage, you're quite the aggressive maniac.
I treat people how I want to be treated, and I hang out with the crew. I love talking to the fans. I'm no different than anyone else, and I think the audience and the fans know that, and I love talking with people and treating them with respect.
And I think everyone kind of knows you're one of the ultimate guitar geeks out there. So what's something in guitar land that's kind of tickling your fancy right now?
It's funny you say that. I just today bought a 1978 Marshall 100-watt head. It's a fawn color, which is like a tan color, a very rare color. And I just purchased that today. It's funny you asked that.
Where do you get guitars from? Just all over the place, or?
Collectors from like Norman's Rare Guitars, or like big guitar collectors around the country.
And didn't you get some of your guitars stolen recently?
We got our house broken into, and I got like a bunch of guitars stolen, and but all of my super expensive guitars are all in storage. So these are the ones that are around the house, hanging around the house, that I'll pick up and play, all the time.
So when you're not doing Zombie, because he's obviously working on tons of projects all the time, and when you're not doing like your solo stuff, what are you up to?
Always playing guitar. Always playing guitar. I'm actually doing a streaming concert, a pay-per-view streaming concert on October 18th. It's hosted by Chris Broderick from Megadeth, and the guys from The Tonight Show are putting it together. So it's rad, it's going to be really cool. I'm going to play all the instrumental stuff. People can, ask me questions. It's going to be really a special thing.
I think I saw some shots of you in the studio with Emily Lazar from September Morning.
Oh yeah, I did. I played some stuff, for her and things like that. Yeah, for, and Howard Benson was, I went in with Howard Benson and, things like that. Yeah, I'm always picking for someone.
Wow, what a great show tonight. I'd like to thank Rob Zombie and John 5 for joining me this evening. As I start to wrap up S1E17, I would like to thank you for tuning in and remind you that you can head over to the Facebook page at facebook.com/The Laveau Show to check out tonight's episode or any of the ones you might have missed in the past. Now, next week on the program, I want to continue the Halloween-type theme and have Ash Costello from the band New Year's Day joining me. They have a new EP that's coming out, and they're about to hit the road over in the UK with Escape the Fate, and then come back to the States to do a tour with Birthday Massacre. And we do this each and every Sunday night, so I am looking forward to next week's show with Ash Costello from New Year's Day. Until then, this is the Laveau Show signing off.